Barnstable Conservation Commission, I would like to ask George to do a roll call for the quorum purpose.
Abadili, not here yet. Foster?
Here.
Gilmore present. Hearn?
Not here.
No, Bill's not here yet, right? Lee?
Present.
Moran?
Present.
Sampu?
Present.
Administrator Darcy Carley?
Present.
Staff member Kim Cavanaugh? We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Acting under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and or Chapter 237 of the Code of Town of Barnstable, the Barnstable Conservation Commission for public hearing on Tuesday, February the 28th, 2023, at 6:30 p.m. for the applications of Thomas Parrish, Susan B. McAllister, Greg McFast, Town of Barnstable, DBW, Bill Different Construction, Oyster Harbor Club, Inc., Angela Hunt, Tina Hasiodos. The hearing will be held remotely as televised on Channel 18. The plans and application are on file and may be reviewed by scheduling appointments by sending emails requests to Darcy Curley at 230 South Street, Hyannis. This meeting is being recorded and transmitted by the Information Technology Department of the Town of Barnstable on Channel 18. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, anyone else desiring to make such a recording or transmissions, please let Channel 18 or I know. Hearing none, this evening's hearing agenda is posted on the town's website. On the agenda next to each application is the amount owed to the Town of Barnstable for the cost of advertisement. Please send your checks to Conservation Division at 230 South Street before the hearing. Remote participations. The Conservation Commission's public hearing will be held by remote participation as a result of an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed up by the Lieutenant Governor on July 16, 2022, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Remote public access to this hearing shall be provided in the following manner. 1, the hearing will be televised via Channel 18. Second, the real-time public comment can be addressed to the Conservation Commission utilizing the Zoom link 897-4557-2671, or use the toll-free phone number 475-4499 as shown on the agenda. Third, the public can also email the comment to darcy.curley@town.barnstable.ma.us at least 8 hours prior to the hearing. Tonight, under the continuance, the applicants for, let me see what it is. Stephanie G. Gasgill, trustee, Bali Next Trust, has requested for a continuance without testimony to March the 14th, 2023. Tonight, we have 5 out of the 8. The first one is Thomas Parrish, proposed 16 by 24 addition to garage at 19 Lake Road, Sanderville, as shown on the Assessors Map 1X6, parcel 053. And Nick. Is Nick with us?
Nick Legadinos, no, he's the builder. He is not.
Okay, so you are speaking on your project.
Yes, both my wife and myself are here.
Okay.
Hi there.
Hi. Do you want to talk about your projects or just take questions from the commission?
Whatever your recommendation is, basically we're extending an existing garage, an additional 16 feet, basically one bay, yeah, whatever else.
Okay. Question from the commissioner. Anyone? No questions? That's good. You're not adding any bedroom, right? You're just adding some more one bay for your car or workshop type?
Correct. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Actually, it is for a workshop.
Okay. Good. Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
Could I have a motion to approve this application as a negative determination?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abbott, excuse me, Foster, I'm sorry, Foster, Louise,
Louise?
I'll come back to you, Louise. Gilmore, aye. Hearn is out. Lee,
Aye.
Lauren,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
Foster. Raise your hand, Louise. Give me a wave. Can we consider that an aye?
Yeah.
Okay. That motion carries, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Good luck to your project. The second RDA is the Susan B. McAllister's proposed septic system upgrades at 10 Island Avenue, Hyannisport, as shown on the assessors map 265 parcel 004. And this is Dan.
Good evening, Chairman Lee, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Dan Ojala. I'm a land surveyor and civil engineer with Downkeep Engineering in Yarmouthport. Here representing as a request for determination, a straight septic upgrade for Susan McAllister. This is an existing 4-bedroom home. There's no increase in flow, but it is fairly close to some resource areas. Do you want me to share my screen, or is it simple enough we could just go through it verbally? Your call, Mr. Chairman.
Show the plan.
Sure.
Just for the public to look at that too.
Yeah. So did that come up okay?
It's coming up.
Oh, it's loading. Yeah, there we go.
Got it.
So in the locus map, this is out on Squaw Island, which is on the south side. Generally things that are in the open water, we don't worry as much about nitrogen, but then again, we are fairly close to some embayments behind this. So we introduced an innovative alternative septic system to knock down the nitrogen. Certainly within your rights to look at septic systems when they need variances from Title V and so forth. So under maximum feasible compliance, reducing the setback to some dry resource area of a coastal bank from 50 right down to 5.5. And this is one of those technical coastal banks that creeps up where the flood zone is, and you're just over the 10% slope. So it's maybe not quite as onerous as it sounds. On the salt marsh, we are 52 feet away with the sealed tank, and a little further with the leaching. It's 56 from the edge of the salt marsh on the west side. This is kind of peninsula that sticks out. So it was fairly sensitive. We're down in the flood zone, and it's lower down here, which is why we kept the system up on the higher ground. There's again, the resources we can be concerned with most are the salt marsh, and we feel that that'll continue to work in its full capacity. The leaching is set up, and because we're in the higher ground, we're able to get almost 6 feet above the adjusted groundwater, and we are doing the advanced treatment on it. The land subject to coastal storm flowage doesn't have specific performance standards, but you always look to make sure you're not diverting floodwater onto an abutter or something like that. And here, where it's not even a mounted system, there's no real cause for concern because everything will be below grade. We will, after this, be going to the health Board of Health for review of the variances, but this should fall under the easier form filing RDA, as there's no increase in flow, and we're doing basically the best we can with what we have in this situation. Be glad to answer any questions if you have them.
One thing I just want to mention, the FAST is an IA system, and typically it can treat down to about 19 milligrams per liter of the total nitrogens. Question from the Commissioner, George.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Just want to thank you, Dan, for an IA system in a fairly sensitive area. Thanks very much to you and the owner for that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Larry?
Dan, is this a replacement of a system or just you said it's an upgrade, but it looks to me like, and there's an area here that it kind of looks like an air mattress right here in the middle. Is that the new sort of leaching field for an IA system? Or maybe you can give us a brief education as to what this is so we can be more familiar with it in the future.
Yeah, so this is a field style system, which is the large field here. There is, and when we say it's an upgrade, it would be an upgrade versus new construction would be the terminology that you use for an increase in flow under Title V. New construction is looked at with a lot bigger microscope and would be more of a concern. But when we say upgrade, that means that it is indeed 4 bedrooms existing. So 4-bedroom dwelling existing, and the design flow is 4 bedrooms. So no increase in flow, and therefore you can come in under 15405, which is maximum feasible compliance, which basically says, you can do the best you can with what you have, unless it's a, complete tight tank situation. Almost always you can get a system in there. So yeah, this big, large leaching field, and, the newer Title V likes to have a wide dispersion that's close to the air above. They found that the air exchange is very beneficial to the leaching field. It keeps it from going anaerobic and creating a slime, which causes them to fail. So that's that great big thing, but it's all under the ground. There'll be a little just 2% slope over the top. And other than that, not really visible. You can have a lawn right over it. So that's replacement of this with a much larger leaching, but it's only because the code has changed and you need bigger systems these days. It's not an increase in flow.
Thank you, Dan.
I had myself muted. Thanks, Dan.
Basically, the design is based on the soil loading rate for the perk test. Any other question from the commissioner? Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
Could I have a motion to approve this project as a negative determination?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Foster. I'll come back to you, Louise. Sampu,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Foster.
I think she's trying to sign back in.
Okay.
Oh, there she is. Louise, can you hear us okay? Louise? There we go. Can you hear us?
She should be hearing us. The mic is unmute. Hi, Louise.
I think she's trying her headphones.
I think we should be fine, right, with 4 votes?
Yeah, that's still, that motion still carries.
Yeah.
So we can move on, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. The next RDA is Gregory Moffett, abandon existing septic system and install an upgrade Title V septic system at 139 Meadow Lane, West Barnstable, as shown on the assessors map 134 parcel 017. Corey?
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Hi.
My name's Corey Bracken for the record. I'm president of Sebacia Inc. and wetland scientist, and I'm representing Greg Monfett for his property at 139 Meadow Lane. I'll wait for Darcy to pull it up. So currently our plan is to abandon the existing septic system. Darcy, do you mind putting on sheet 2, please?
Okay, just a minute. Let me find that one.
Oh,
I think I
my
brought
apologies.
this. Yeah, I only pulled this one up because this one was located. Oop, geez. Hold on. Keep talking. I'll bring it up from
Okay.
Laserfiche. Sorry.
Thank you. So the existing septic system is to the right of the roundabout of the driveway. We're going to pump, rupture, and fill with sand the existing tank and abandon the SAS, which is just south of it. There are 6 wetland resource areas on the property. We have the FEMA flood zone, AE 13 and 14, towards the northwest of the property, towards the top of the screen. Land subject to coastal storm flowage. There's a BVW that myself and Bob Gray delineated that is on the western portion of the property, a scrub swamp that extends towards the eastern portion of the property behind the garage. There's a salt marsh on the northernmost edge, and there is habitats of rare wildlife and the priority habitat of rare species, PH 892, outside of the area of proposed work, also on that northern marsh side. Currently, our plan is to install a 1,500 gallon tank for an existing 4-bedroom house, kind of in the roundabout area in the middle of the driveway, with an 1,000 gallon pump tank and the proposed SAS towards the western portion adjacent to the driveway. The all proposed work is within existing lawn area, and the closest portion of the tank is 50 feet off of wetland flag 17. So all of our work is between the 50 and 100 foot buffer zone. And I believe if anyone has any questions for me, I'd love to answer them.
So I assume your existing septic system fails.
Is failing, correct.
Okay. Thank you. Any question from the commissioner? See none? Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to approve this project as a negative determination?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Lee,
Yes.
Moran,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Foster.
Aye.
There we go, Louise, welcome back. That's unanimous, Mr. Chairman.
Could we ask if an IA system has been considered? Or
At this time, Pete McEntee with Engineering Works, he designed the septic system, and I believe he didn't consider it at this time.
could you suggest that it would be a good thing, especially that is such a beautiful spot?
Yes.
It would really be wonderful if we could get one there.
Yeah, we'd really encourage that. Corey.
Okay, that would be.
Can't require it, but would really encourage it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll bring that to the client's attention.
And certainly information would be available from the Barnstable Clean Water Association or whatever, coalition, Clean Water Coalition. They know all about it.
And Corey, it would have the beneficial effect on the wetlands around with less nutrients and a less likelihood for eutrophication and algae. So it would be a benefit aesthetically as well for the homeowner.
Understood. That'd be something I'd have to discuss with him further and get with Pete about. But it'd definitely be something that they'd consider.
Thank you.
Great.
The next idea is Town of Barnstable, DBW, extend the existing rear deck across the entire rear of the building at 997 Creekview Beach Road, Centerville, as shown on the assessors maps 206, parcel 013. Mark.
Good evening. For those that you don't know me, Mark Barnaccio, I'm a town architect with Public Works. I'm going to share my screen. So this is, I'm sure you're all familiar with Creekville Beach Bathhouse. This is the locus plan that was submitted with the application. And so we're hoping for a negative determination for these items tonight as kind of guided by Darcy. Thank you very much, Darcy, for your help with this. This was the approval from back in 2016 when we did the first phase of interior renovation for the bathhouse, installing the new handicap accessible bathrooms. At that time, we put in this handicapped ramp to the left here and a small deck addition on the back. To the right, you see the existing, this was the existing plan before the improvement. You can see there's an existing concrete walkway that walks around the back of the building on the beach side. And you can kind of see that in this lower right picture here. You can see that concrete walk that walks by. So what we're proposing to do is to extend that deck across so that we have accessibility from the other side of the parking lot as well, towards the back. And it's this piece here. And what it does is goes from concrete and spans over that piece of sand right here to connect the other deck. That's the extent of the project, and I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions?
I did meant to say there is a piece, the second floor balcony is currently supported off of the back of the wall, and it's really not safe according to our structural engineer. So they're planning to extend that down on top of the new deck portion here. It would be the same width as the deck that's proposed there. It would just be sitting on these two posts, so it wouldn't extend any further out. Sorry. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mark.
Stop sharing.
Question from the commissioner? See none. Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
Could I have a motion to approve this project as a negative determination?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call.
Moran,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Foster.
Aye.
That's unanimous, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Good luck, Mark.
Thank you very much. Good night.
The last idea of the evening is build different construction to raise and replace existing rear deck and porch at 163 Long Beach Road, Sandyville, as shown on the Assessors Maps 205, parcel 026. Dan.
Good evening, Chairman Lee, and members of the commission. Oh, am I muted or? No, we're good, right?
No, we hear you.
Okay. It said it was muted again for some reason. So Dan Ogeler again from Downcape Engineering. This time we're helping build different construction out at 163 Long Beach Road in Centerville. This is on the Barrier Beach, which heads west of Craigville Beach, where the last hearing was. This should be a pretty simple okay. It's simply replacing an old deck and porch in kind. So in other words, we're doing work that's in the same footprint as what was there. There is a coastal dune seaward of us, but we're working, there's a lawn area around us. One of the commission members noticed there's a little bit of digging in the yard. Septic as-built was erroneous. They couldn't find the septic tank, so they ended up digging quite a bit to find that. Everything checked out okay on that. And that's been buttoned back up again. But it's just replacing what's there. I think that should be a pretty routine approval. No real change, and would be glad to hook up to sewer when and if that does come down. Until then, that existing Title V looks like it's going to work fine. It is on the ocean side, which you worry a little bit less about because of the dilution factor of an open sound. But other than that, be glad to answer any questions if you have them. Again, just a replacement of a deck and porch as noted on the plan. Thank you.
They're replacing at the same footprint, right?
Yeah, identical. Yeah.
Luis?
On the drawing, it shows, and in fact, I saw it's there, is a what you call a deck bench. How about that? It's right at the beach. Are you aware of it?
So this deck bench out there, yeah.
What about that?
Oh,
Has that been improved?
I'm not aware of any, I don't know. It's an existing condition and it looked like it had been there a long time. So I wasn't going to touch it, but I don't know if Darcy has knowledge of it or not, but it was really part of our project. We always show all the features on every site that we go to as best as we can.
So Darcy, you're feeling okay about that? it's so old that it's grandfathered or?
I apologize. I didn't have a chance to look into it. I do know that the properties on either side have them also. I think it is an older feature.
Okay, well, if the properties on either side have them, that doesn't really justify continuing to have that there unless it has been there for such a very long time that it should be there. But maybe Dan could find out and let you know.
Okay. I can try to look at.
And look at it, and then we can see from there. And then, but just look at this application as what is they're asking for,
Right.
just to replace things, the existing deck and porch. So, any other question from the commissioner? Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
Could I have a motion to approve this project as a negative determination?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Foster,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Lee,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Sampool.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Good luck. We have 3 NOI tonight. The first one is Oyster Harbor Club, Inc. to replace golf course irrigation pump house, and intake pipe at 145 Grand Island Drive, Austerville, as on the Assessors Map 071, parcel 004-001. Chuck?
Good evening, Chuck Rowland, Sullivan Engineering Consulting. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
So I'm sure you guys have all been to maybe not this specific parcel, but Oyster Harbor's club in general several times. But essentially this is an existing historic golf club designed in 1925 by the famous Olmsted brothers and later redesigned by Donald Ross. This is located on about 134 acres of land. So the project in front of you tonight, as proposed, is to replace the existing golf course irrigation pump, pump house, and intake line. Presently, the existing pump, which was originally installed using a wet well in the 1950s, is fed from a small pump in the pond to feed the wet well. This technology, which was common practice in the time, is inefficient. The pump uses substantially more electricity than necessary and is prone to pump failure, as well as, and the well is well beyond the design life. Additionally, with the new monitoring technology, watering the golf becomes more efficient by using less water with the new pump. All the work will be in the similar location as presently being used, which is right here, if you can see the screen. The new pump system will be gravity fed from the pond into an intake pipe. This will feed the water into the wet well below the pump house. The proposed pump house is slightly smaller than the existing pump house, with the concrete pad behind it. So once completed, all equipment will be located inside the pump house. So I don't know if you guys were there, but can you guys see my mouse on the screen?
Yes.
So presently there's an existing pump house, and then there's some pipes that are outside that are on an existing concrete pad. And so now everything's going to be inside of the pump house. So switching here to the larger screen, the construction access will be coming in through existing curb cuts, construction access, stockpiling, machinery will be coming in, demolishing the existing pump house. And then we'll have to be driving sheeting, as shown here on the left-hand side of the screen. The area will have to be dewatered, small area. where my mouse is right here, will have to be excavated to install the pipe. The pipe will be installed, as well as the wet well, and then the sheeting will be removed, and then the pump house can be constructed on top of it. So I've shown a work limit consisting of hay bales. We are going to need some extra room to allow machinery for access in the area. Typically, I know that removal of vegetation this close to the resource is frowned upon by this commission, but it's really the only way to build this. And so I think that the ends justify the means. So although we will be removing vegetation, the benefits are going to be less water use, less electricity being used, and better water management overall in the area. So I think that pretty much covers all of that. I'll switch over to the cross-section plan that was provided by the designer. So a couple of comments I got were elevations for the pipe, which we have shown. I can't remember what the other comment was.
The pipe support.
Oh, pipe support. So essentially, the pipe is going to be thick PVC, and that's kind of common practice what they use. They think it's plenty strong enough to be used in situations like this. And what they do is they use essentially quickcrete, sackcrete bags of concrete. You use a stainless steel band to go around the bags of concrete and the pipe in two different areas. And once the concrete becomes wet, it sets. And so it's just the easiest way to create footings that'll hold the pipe down in place. And then, so we have the intake pipe, wet well, the pumps, and the ejector. It's all inside of the existing pump house. Then we have a plan view of showing how that's going to look with the wet well. I think these are filters, and then pumping out. And then they have an overall plan on this one as well. I know it's a lot to take in. It's a fairly extensive project in a small footprint. And the golf course superintendent explained to their membership that this is, you know, civil engineering as it at its core. These are things that nobody ever wants to talk about, think about, hear about. But this is the heartbeat of the golf course. If a pump system were to fail like this, the entire golf course would die, grass would die, and there'd be no more golfing in a very short time span. And so with that, I'm happy to take any questions, which I'm sure there will be.
Thank you, Chuck. Louise?
You mentioned that you're going to need to remove a lot of vegetation in order to do the project. Some of that is some fairly large trees. There are a number of trees, not all that big, but a lot of trees are coming out. So I look at your native planting list and I don't see anything quite like those trees or resembling them at all. Do you have, would you consider putting some trees back in there for the benefit of the wildlife? And also I think it would probably kind of shield the pump house from the view of the public as well.
Yes, I did going into this, I knew that there would be a request for trees to be replanted, and I think that they're definitely amenable to doing that. So, if yeah, they're happy to do that.
Okay. So that should go on an amended plan or just added to the plant list?
We can, yes, we can do that. If it's okay with the commission, like 4-inch trees and 1 for 1, I'll count up the trees, but I'm happy to do that, work with Darcy.
Great, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry?
Chuck, tell me the condition of the floor in that pump house right now. You said it goes back to the 50s. I presume nothing's been done to it since then, but what is its current condition, and what would happen if this structure was not completely removed and replaced? What would happen?
There's definitely a safety issue moving forward without actually having someone actually climb into the wet well when it's dewatered, which is not only difficult but not advisable. There's no real way to tell if the floor over the wet well is safe or not. So a concrete floor that was installed in the 1950s, I would say that there's a pretty good chance that is no longer safe, and I certainly don't want to be the one that has to go in there to be replacing or fixing pumps, especially when big heavy pumps are on probably a fairly deteriorated rebar floor. So it's definitely, I don't want to give any kind of timeline as to when a floor would cave in, but in my professional opinion, I don't want to walk on it.
Well, I think what you're saying is that while you've got the area open, you want to put a new floor in that'll be reinforced, and then everything will go on top of it. Is that
Very
correct?
much so. Yeah,
right.
Everything's getting removed. Everything's
coming out of there.
Everything's coming out, and we're getting all new infrastructure.
Now, with the current roof, I don't believe there's any roof runoff or dry well, but you're putting one in the would sort of be the southeast corner away from the pump house. Is that correct?
Yeah, I know that it's one of your not only your 100-foot buffer requirements, but I think it's a 237 requirement to add erosion control, and yeah, I don't see it in 237, but it's definitely in your 100-foot buffer requirements to put drainage in. So we're happy to do that, and I think a 600-gallon pit with 4 feet of stone it's more than adequate for that size structure.
Okay, and you've also, the current pumping system, as I understand it, does not have sensors at the various locations that would detect either a break in a pipeline or a failure somewhere else. But I believe the new system is going to be much more sophisticated electronically, and it'll be able to detect all those things. Is that correct?
That is correct. My understanding is that everything's going to be not so much automated, but it's going to have sensors to be able to let people know what's going on. So people will be notified when there's been a spike in flow, which typically indicates breakage in pipes and irrigation areas like this is fairly common. Yeah, so any kind of like issues like clogging and so forth are brought to the attention of the golf course staff very quickly through sensors, as opposed to just noticing that an area hasn't received water, or there's been a break in a pipe, so they see flooding the next day.
Okay, all right. Yeah. That covers me for the moment. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
Any other question from the commissioner? Darcy, do we need construction protocol and dewatering protocol? And do we want to have a pre-construction conference with natural resource?
I don't think you need to have MEA involved on this one. But I think we do want to have a written construction protocol and that I meet on site with the contractor.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think you were talking, Chuck was talking about adding the drainage for the roof. You do have the
So there's a drainage pit.
600 gallon pit.
Yeah.
So that's on the plan.
Yep.
So Chuck, what we're talking about is we'll need a constructions and dewatering protocol from the contractor, whoever you pick for the contractor, and then have a pre-construction conference, have those protocol available prior to that conference.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay.
Additionally, we've learned a lot from the last one, which we did which was very similar at the Wiano Club. There was definitely a learning curve, and there were a few lessons learned, and so it's going to be not the exact same team, but similar players are going to be involved.
Right. And then we need a revised plan showing the mitigation trees, planting locations, stuff.
Great.
Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
None? Could I have a motion to approve this project subject to receipt of a revised plan showing the mitigation trees locations and the constructions and dewatering protocol to be prepared by the contractor to be submitted prior to the pre-construction conference?
So moved.
Second,
Roll call.
Foster,
aye.
Gilmore, aye. Lee,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck,
Thank you.
Chuck.
Just one quick question for my next project that I'm representing, the McParlands. It's been continued. Do you want me to stick around or to continue it, or you guys all set with that?
Well, when do you want to continue it to?
Yeah, we should probably just discuss it in line then if we're going to talk about it. So I'll wait for my turn. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. I did not see Arlene here, so I'm going to take things out of order a little bit. Let me go to Tina Hasiotis. Install in-ground pool and adjoining patio at 773 South Main Street, Centerville, as shown on the assessors map 185, parcel 013. This would be Matt Eddy.
Yep, I'm here. Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, Matthew Eddy, professional engineer with Baxter & I Engineering and Surveying, representing Tina Hasiotis and 773 South Main Street, LLC. The project before you is a proposed pool at Tina's residence at 773 South Main Street in Centerville. The resource areas, would you like me to share my screen, Darcy?
Yes, please. Show the site plan.
Yes, please.
Here we go. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Okay. I have highlighted up on the plan here so you can
Oh, Matt,
see
just wait a minute. I just want to mention that our John Abadilis has joined us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry for my tardiness. I was out of town, but back available.
That's okay. That's okay.
Thank you.
Welcome,
Matt,
John.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No problem. No problem. Welcome. So the resource areas within the proposed work area, we have coastal bank and riverfront on the slot. You can see what I've highlighted in the light orange color. This is the 50-foot buffer to the coastal bank. This is the 100-foot buffer. And then this line here is the 100-foot inner riparian line from for the riverfront area. The existing lot is, fully developed. I'll say main house here, guest house. This is a driveway coming in off of South Main. There is patios here, and it's terraced with multiple retaining walls, etc. So what's being proposed is just a simple, small pool that Tina is hoping she can get approval for. The footprint is 12 feet by 20.5 feet. We have situated it in the back edge, of the side of the house as far as we can. There is 262 square feet of new hardscape that's proposed. That includes the pool footprint that you see here. And this is what I've kind of highlighted up in this color here. And then there's also this slight wedge of patio just to kind of square it off to the existing patio area. So that proposed area equals 262 square feet. To offset that increase in proposed hardscape, we're going to be removing this area that I've highlighted in the diagonal green shading here. This is existing patio hardscape here with a stone wall. And then this whole swath area here is all existing patio and stone walkway. So we're going to be removing that area that you can see that I've highlighted in green. That equals 262 square feet as well to offset the increase in hardscape. Again, understanding that there is a lot of development on the lot. We do have this, the pool is, situated towards the back of the lot as much as we can. And I would note that the hardscape that we are removing is, slightly closer to the resource area. Obviously, the pool disinfection system will be as required under the commission requirements, being either, salt water, UV, et cetera. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. And actually, if I could too, I'll just show you real quick. These are pictures that were submitted with the notice of intent package. I think this is probably the best image that you can see. So this is the existing site. The pool's going to be sitting back here. This area then in the foreground, there's that stone wall. All this patio will come out right up to here. This is the entrance into the house to the right. So the patio will come out here. All that will come out. And then half of this walkway, approximately, we're going to leave 34 inches just for the existing walkway up to the entrance here. So I think that gives you a pretty good picture of what's going to occur out there. So with that, happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Matt. George?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Matt, maybe I missed it, but I missed the drawdown pit and also the site of the mechanicals.
Yep, the drawdown pit is shown on the plan. It's on the southerly side of the pool. It's going right where the existing stone wall that's coming out. So it's going right in there, and that is in the plan.
Okay,
and then no problem. I meant to mention that. I'm sorry about that. And then the equipment area will be to the side of the guest house at the far edge of the stone patio, up by the guest house, which is up by the driveway.
Okay, thank you.
Louise?
A small thing, but you're going to need to have a pool fence, right?
Yep, the pool fence.
Go ahead.
Yep, the pool fence is proposed on the plan as well. Again, I can share my screen if you want, but there is a fair amount of fencing out there now. We are augmenting that, and there'll be some modifications to it with some of the gate aspects, but that is all called out on the plan as well.
So is that included in the 262 square feet?
It's just that's not creating any new hardscape. I mean, it's all, the amount of fence is actually already out there. It's just going to be reconfiguring it, but it's just, a fence, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but a fence would not be counted as hardscape. It's not.
Yeah, we don't count fences as hardscape.
Okay, and it's just going to be in the ground, not on any kind of fancy.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you look at the, again, I can share my screen again if you'd like.
Yeah, share the screen.
Yeah, the fencing, see the fencing that's out there already? It's a nice decorative fencing. So that fencing is just going to be, this is going to get altered here. There's already a barrier here. And then in the foreground of this picture is all fences along the terraced walls that exist on the south side of the patios.
Okay. And there's no added surround around the pool. It's going to be all grass.
That's correct. All this will remain grass. This will all become grass. We're going to remove the hardscape. And then the only piece you can see right here, so it's about 16 square feet. This rectangle is the pool. And then there's just a slight infill in here because this is the existing edge of the patio, and squaring up the pool to it. We want to, keep the square kind of perpendicular to the patio, if you will, so that slight, infill right there on the existing patio. And that's all part of the calculation of the 262 square feet of hardscape.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Pete?
Okay, yeah, so we got 262 square feet of a pool going in, and it's replacing lawn, which doesn't have much value for really anything. And it's being replaced, essentially, that 260 foot by taking out stone within the, it looks like mostly the 50 to 100, again, putting it with grass. This commissioner would love to see something that's actually beneficial for the environment as a mitigation for adding sort of more non-habitat space to this very developed property. That's my opinion.
Peter, could you elaborate on what it is you have in mind?
I would love to see something a little bit closer to the resource, where we have something that might take up nutrient, or because when rainwater, I think second leading cause of nitrogen pollution to our coastal waters, when that hits these, essentially fairly not very pervious pavers and stuff you have here, that goes pretty quickly into our waterways. So if there could be something that would uptake, for instance, nitrogen or any other rain-delivered pollutants before it gets into our waterways, that's something that I think we should be considering as a commission, trying to make the end result better than the present result, the present conditions.
Yeah, I hear you, Pete. I think because this is hardscape here, right, and we're removing that, so the lawn area will actually be infiltratable. And so I think, you're going to have less runoff than you do currently that, sheets towards the river. Understanding your point that it's, it is lawn, and lawn doesn't have any benefit, but we have offset, the hardscape aspect. And I think, again, from the infiltration standpoint, I'm kind of looking at this, that hey, this is hardscape here that's impervious, that's closer to the resource area. We've actually, I'm going to say, I know it's minor, but I'm going to say it's a slight improvement in it being more, an infiltratable surface here, so that runoff that you were just referring to, you're not having that as much runoff. One other thing that I was thinking about, that I not surprised by your comment, and I haven't had a chance to discuss this with the homeowner, but I was thinking, and I think she would be okay with it, and see what you guys think, but maybe, sorry, I'm bouncing around here a little bit. This is an existing landscape bed. It's then patio that wraps around it here. If we, and again, I know it wouldn't be a lot of area, but I was kind of thinking this landscape bed, I could see doing some plantings just along here. I don't think she would want to go all the way over here, because that's just how she gets around. If you go out there and when you're walking around, this is all patio now, so that's going to be lawn. She obviously needs area to be able to walk by this landing with the columns and everything out to this patio area here. But maybe if we, added something in this area here, Pete, maybe back, if I say to the wall, and then, kind of squaring off, if you will, this landscape bed, and we could do this with, some type of, buffer plantings off of the cooperative list. Would that?
What shouts out to me is essentially all the stone pavement within the 0 to 50. That's just my observation.
Yeah, I hear you, but because we did have dialogue about, where we would put this, what do we need to do to offset it? And we, discussed out here. This is something that, I think was not done too long ago. And I touched base with Darcy because we weren't involved in the original project here.
I'll listen to what the other commissioners are happy to say.
All right. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Speak. Louise?
I agree with Commissioner Sampu wholeheartedly. And I'm thinking, instead of removing the areas shown in green, why not do that up within the 50 foot? and do some nifty plantings in there. I think that would really be something. I remember having visited this property a couple of times, a few years, maybe 10 years ago, maybe 15 even. And at that point, it was so heavily developed that I think there were restrictions placed in terms of doing any more in that area along the top of the bank. So, you know, that suggests to me that taking something out of there would kind of remediate some development that we had rather not have had there. So, you know, if you scrapped taking out the green and took out some stones along the top of the bank that would be equivalent to that area and develop it, I think that would be, or not develop it, plant it with native plants. I think that would be wonderful.
No, I understand the comments, but I think, you know, because I know we discussed this here, you know, I would have to review it with her, but I'm 90% sure that she doesn't want to do this down here, because we had looked at, you know, other possibilities. I would just submit that we are removing hardscape that is, you know, in the same buffer zone, or even, you know, closer again to the resource. There is a small amount of 50, understanding it's not as close down to here to the bank that you're referring to. But I think we are meeting the intent of the bylaw and the mitigation requirements as far as offsetting the hardscape. And again, you know, slightly, you know, removal of the hardscape closer to the resource area.
Thanks, Ed. Matt, Larry?
Matt, it's a little challenging, and it's not your fault, to visualizing the changes at this southern end of this grass plot. And I know you feel the same way to a certain extent. But one of the things Pete mentioned, something about runoff, there's a significant drop off as this property moves towards the water down here. I think the Centerville River runs through here. And it shows right here, it drops off by about 8 feet from here down to the water's edge, or at least the lower path. So there may be an area where you could have some sort of a dry well for runoff. If that's feasible, you could possibly put it up in this area and drill a hole and put a dry well in there. I don't. I look at this differently than Louise and Pete do. The question becomes, however, whether there can be different kinds of vegetation planned in the area up to about here. Now, I don't know, Matt, you can help me. Is part of this patio right here, is this part being removed? Where it shows the landscape bed, is part of that being removed?
I'm not sure where you're pointing to, Larry.
I'm right at this little area where you've got this bay window-like thing on the house. And it's right in this area here. Is any of that being removed?
This area here is not being removed. It's all, the existing patio comes all the way back to here.
Okay.
So all of this area here is being removed.
That's the part being removed. Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess the question is, and one of the suggestions was perhaps some plantings could go in here along the southern edge of that. It may be worthwhile for you to consider it with Miss Hariotis and see what she's willing to do. But I see that. I don't know where we are. I don't even know whether this. We don't like getting into mitigations, site constraint, or whatever they call it. I don't like getting into that unless it's inevitable. But I think that what you've proposed is in the right direction. The question is, are there any fine tunings of it that can be done that might address some of the other concerns that have been made? And at the moment, I don't have any, not because I can't think of them, but because I'd have to go out there and really see what could be done. So that's my view on it.
Yeah. Thanks, Larry. Any other question from the commissioner? Matt, I'm just curious. I'm looking at the plan and I'm wondering, since some of the commission is asking for mitigation planting, is there any opportunity in where you have a label state and town coastal bank right next to the retaining wall?
Tom, you're talking about where? I mean, down in here or here?
No, in front of the house, away from the pad.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, this is all vegetated out here. Just trying to see if there any of the pictures that we took are facing out that way. Yeah, it drops off so hard you can't see it. It's very steep. This is all terraced here. Yeah, you can't see. But I think, Tom, this all this area is vegetated down in here. So there's really not any opportunity. We could take, I could take a harder look maybe in here, but again, it's so terraced. I'm fairly certain that it's all vegetated. But we could take a look at that. What happened
to the drainage in that area? Where's the stormwater go?
Where's runoff from this area go?
Yeah.
It's probably sheet flowing off, and it's probably, there's your retaining wall, so it probably has a, stone behind the retaining walls. So there's, weeps behind the wall, and then, and then weeps out through the base of the wall, likely, for runoff.
Okay.
But, I could look at if there's any opportunity here. I could discuss with Tina about trying to just do something here. I know it's not a lot, but I mean, some vegetation here, and then just from a drainage standpoint here, this, this drawdown, can double, or I could add another pit for a, leach pit for runoff, so that this area, that we grade this area here so that it's picked up by a, dry well / leach pit and infiltrated in, so you don't have any runoff from this area. I just, getting into modifying all of this down here with any type of drainage that doesn't currently exist would obviously be a lot of disruption and cost that I don't think, because this was done not too long ago, I believe. So.
Excuse me, Tom.
Yes.
Matt, can I share my screen a minute, please?
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see. I was hoping I could, because that area is grass that Tom was asking about. Hold on. I'm going to try to bring up Arc Reader. Here we go. Isn't this the area that Tom was asking about? Can you see?
Yep.
Can you mark it? Oh, I see.
Yeah. I'd have to get out there. I haven't been out there for, I don't know, for a while, but yeah, that's the area. If that's, I'll have to go out and look at it. And if it's, it looks like it's lawn in that picture. I can't remember off the top of my head, Darcy. And I know with those aerial images, wintertime,
that's July. I'll do July 2020. Hang on.
Yeah, see if you got
it's lawn.
Yeah, that's lawn there. Yep.
I think there was a wall with, it has like glass panels. So I'm not really sure how much runoff you're getting over the bank, but you have lawn there.
But I could take a look at that and see what we could do for, what we could do for, some additional plantings here, and see what she would be willing to do, because she may not, I'm assuming she's not going to want to give all that up. I mean, if we're, so from just an overall mitigation standpoint, because I'm, removing hardscape up around the proposed pool area, if we start doing some vegetative mitigation down in that area you were just pointing to, would I not need to remove as much of the hardscape up around the proposed pool area? because right now I'm offsetting it all, right? I'm trying to add, trying to give a little bit more mitigation from a vegetative standpoint. If we do something, if we're able to do some vegetation down closer to the resource in that lawn area you were just pointing at, could I back off on the removal of some of the hardscape up by the pool? I'm just thinking like the walkway, it would be nice if it could stay a little bit wider, et cetera. And, we go through the calculations as needed. If I ended up not offsetting the hardscape 100% as I'm currently doing, if I have I got 262 square feet of hardscape that we're proposing. If I remove, I'm just going to say a number just for discussion, but let's just say 200 square feet. So that'd be 60 square feet in the 50 to 100. So, it wouldn't be these numbers, obviously, but if it was 60 and then mitigating that at a 3-to-1 ratio down in that lawn area, that'd be 180 square feet. If I went along something along those lines, does that seem to, would the commissioners feel better about that?
To myself, I think so. It will be more beneficial to the resource area if you're closer to within the 0 to 50 buffer zone. Louise.
Darcy, did you go back to the work that had been done several years ago? There were some constraints imposed on that property that, no more development in certain areas. Did anybody pull that out at all?
No.
Well, let's see, just looking at that property, I say to myself, where is the mitigation for all that development? I kind of remember that there were plantings along the top of the bank. I could be wrong, but there should be plantings other than lawn on that property because so much had been done, unless it was grandfathered in, and it looks very new to me.
I think it was grandfathered because it goes back a ways. I know, I did reach out to Darcy, and Darcy, what we touched base on, it was probably late last fall. And I think, Darcy, when you were looking at it, because I was just asking about all that, and was there anything outstanding? I wasn't seeing anything outstanding. And I think you were saying that there was one final monitoring report for the mitigation that had been done previously that had to be submitted. But I think that other than that, you felt that it was pretty well in line with where it was supposed to be, I believe.
Yeah. Where is it? Where is it? There are no plantings on that property. It's all lawn and
well, there's that coastal bank area that's all vegetated. Again, I don't know. I wasn't involved in that. I know, Darcy, when I touched base with you, you felt that it was, I think you said it had already gone through some of the, the monitoring reports. I think you said there was one left to do, is my recollection.
Okay. I can pull it up, but it's going to take me a minute while you're talking.
Yeah. And what we can do too, if, just based on this discussion, maybe we just, continue it. I just want to make sure I'm moving in the right direction here. So then I can talk to Tina, look at what we could do for that lawn area. If we can do some mitigation there, I'll just go through the standard calculation. If I do some vegetative mitigation down in that lawn area closer to the coastal bank, then I'll go through and I'll look at, if I can keep a little bit more of that existing stone walkway and so forth. And I'll just, I'll follow the standard mitigation calculations and make sure that it's all in compliance. And if I can only get a small amount of additional mitigation, then I just still remove the same amount of hardscape, but we'll add a little bit of additional, mitigation down low, if that makes sense. Does that sound in the right direction of what everybody's kind of thinking?
To me, I think you are. Let me go through a couple here. John?
Thank you. I think there are two issues that I see. Darcy, we're going to make sure, I'd like to know if an order of conditions was issued, the certificate of compliance to that previous order, and if there has been compliance with any ongoing requirements such as monitoring. I don't think we're capable of resolving that right now. I think you need to research those questions that Louise raised. Okay. Secondly, I would clearly answer Matt that said, yeah, in my opinion, if the applicant is willing to do something that close to the resource in that 0 to 50 zone, I would buy onto that far quicker than simply removing a like amount of hardscape, mostly in the 50 to 100, replacing it with mostly in the 50 to 100. So for this commissioner, Matt, the answer to your question was very definitely yes. But I do think we need to resolve the questions that Louise was raising, and Darcy can do that.
Thank you, John. Pete?
So we have on numerous regular occasions espoused the value of, I'll say it, an unimpacted 0 to 50 buffer. And I'm looking at this, and I'll ask you, Matt, and I'll ask my fellow commissioners, how functional, for all the benefits that we talk about, how functional is the 0 to 50 buffer to the top of the bank on this property? I would suggest not very functional at all. You've got some vegetation, it's grass. You've got a bunch of rocks, stones. This commissioner, like, we have to keep a better care of our coastal waters. And we're not doing it if we're putting grass and we're putting rock right up all through the land that we want to have buffers, keeping our waters in a better, cleaner condition. That's all I got to say.
Thanks, Pete.
Here's the monitoring, 2021 annual monitoring report that Matt was bringing up. The mitigation was the management of invasive species on the coastal bank and implanted mitigation areas. So that was the one that we said we had, the one in 2021. So it was being monitored. I don't see one for 2022, but.
Yeah, I think that's what you were telling me, Darcy, that you said that there was one last report that was needed, I think you had said.
Yeah.
But,
monitoring.
But the basic construction happened a long time ago. I mean, it wasn't that recent at all. It was 10 years ago at least, I would say. So we ought to look back at that and just make sure that we understand.
We can look back.
What was done.
Okay.
If there's no more comment, I want to.
Yeah, Tom.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I got to respond to Peter. Peter, I understand your frustration, and I absolutely agree with you relative to protecting that 0 to 50. That's got to be a very, very strong effort on the part of this commission. On the other hand, looking at the application before us, it is there. Otherwise, it is there legally. We can't say, oh, it's a mess and it's bad. You know, we're looking at the set of facts before us. So I understand your frustration, Peter. I absolutely agree with your frustration. Why the heck did this ever happen in the past? But from a legal point of view, we've got certain limitations in terms of correcting what existed legally before. That's all.
Right.
But please understand, I absolutely agree with your position.
We have 262 feet at the minimum that we can barter here. And that's what I don't want to give away by putting it up in the 50 to 100.
And I think that's what I agree. That's what we're asking Matt to do, to go back and look at that 0 to 50 and try and re-get as much as we can of that. So I think we're pretty much together, Peter. Anyways, and thank you.
Channel 18, any public comment? I see Michael Gill raise his hand.
Yes, sir.
Just 1 minute. Channel 18, can I go to Mike?
Yeah, Michael's, yep. Go ahead.
Hi, Mike. Can you identify yourself and the address? And I think our secretary
still on mute.
Keep that in the record.
Am I still on mute?
No. Yes,
Okay. I'm sorry. My name is Michael Gill. I'm an attorney at Gill Devine in Hyannis. I'm here representing Patricia Carlson as trustee of the John V. McMahon Personal Residence Trust, which is the owner of the abutting property directly to the west at 789 South Main Street. Other than the Centerville River itself, this property is the one that'll be most impacted by this pool. Okay, so my client has several concerns, also several questions. Some of those have been asked already by some of the commissioners. I'd like to emphasize that this property is in the Saltwater Estuary Overlay District. It's also located in the Craigville Beach District, which has been designated by the Cape Cod Commission as an area of critical concern because of adverse effects on Centerville River. It's also part of the Centerville River North Bank zoning district, okay, again, for similar concerns. I think Commissioner Sampo probably made the most compelling case regarding the proximity to the Centerville River and the fact that there's literally almost no mitigation in that 50-foot buffer between from the Centerville River. I understand and appreciate that you can only deal with the facts before you, but you also, you know, this entire project is within your jurisdiction, okay? Because you have the riverfront area, you have the coastal bank, and you have the wetlands jurisdiction. So most of this project is within your jurisdiction. You can just say no, okay? I think the biggest thing that I'd like to emphasize, but it's already been said before, I think one commissioner characterized this site as fully developed. Another commissioner characterized it as greatly developed. And it is. It's a small property. It's 11,000 square feet and change. Yet it has a 5,800 square foot primary residence with 7 bedrooms. It has an 1,600 square foot garage that has been transformed into living space, okay? It only has 262 square feet of non-hardscape service area. That's really incredible, okay? And yet you also have, you know, you're finding a place the only place you can put a pool is probably in this location. And while I understand and appreciate that the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction is not setback issues, this is literally 3 feet from my client's property. So it violates the setback, and the applicant's going to have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals to get a special permit for that. But there are obvious impacts regarding that proximity to my client's property that go further than just zoning board setback issues, okay? One is where Mr. Eddy showed us pictures of the area where the pool is going to go. There are large matured landscape hedges on my client's property that are right on the property line. Okay, those have been there for a long time, and those root systems presumably go pretty deep. So how, you know, when we start digging a pool, and how deep are we going to go? That's 3 feet from the property line. What does that mean to the root system of that existing hedge? Okay, we also have a chain link fence that is being replaced. By what is it being replaced? Okay, we also heard about pool equipment, but we haven't seen where that pool equipment is located. Is that located on hardscape? Is it located on what? Some of that 262 square feet of what's, I guess, non-hardscape? There's very little there. Overall, you know, there's going to be drainage impacts. You have a leaching pit that is down gradient. Is that going to catch everything? When the pool needs to be drained, where does all that water go? It seems to me that it's eventually going to find its way over to the Centerville River. You have construction impacts. On the very bottom of the notes in the plan, there's a comment about dewatering and leaving it to the contractor to kind of figure that piece out. Well, I'm not sure we should leave that to the contractor to figure that out. I think we need to know exactly what mitigation effects during the construction process are going to be there. The plan did show silt fencing. I was unclear where that silt fencing is going to be. It seemed to be almost around the entire property, but I'd love to hear some more on that. But at the end of the day, you know, because one can do something doesn't mean that one should do something. This property is already all hardscaped. Why are we adding more? Why are we adding more that, you know, what, as Commissioner Sampo said, basically more runoff to the Centerville River, right? It's a critical wetland area. It's a critical planning concern for the town of Barnstable. Your commission hears this at every hearing about nitrogen loading and those types of impacts. And it just seems that where you don't have to approve this, why would you?
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
So, Matt, you have some homework to do here. What kind of continuance are you looking?
The next hearing is on the 14th.
There is a 7th and there's a 14th.
Oh, there's a 7th, really? That's next Tuesday. Okay. Yeah, definitely not the 7th for sure. The 14th, and then is there one on the I would say the 14th, or is there one on the 28th or not?
There is one on the 28th.
So I mean, I would say the 14th. I mean, I think I can get feedback from Tina and go through this information that we've discussed and augment and revise the plan as needed if the 14th is acceptable, and if I find
Matt, excuse me, let me jump in. I think we've already notified the commissioners that I will be unavailable, so that'd be 2 commissioners unless Bill Mullen ruled it out. So your quorum becomes somewhat more difficult. That's just for your information.
Okay, I appreciate that. How about the 28th? Does that work better?
Yeah. Yep.
And is that the current commissioners that are sitting? I'll anticipate to be there on the 28th. Okay.
Yeah, 28th would be fine. Just one last one. Channel 18. Is there any more public comment out there?
Seeing none.
None. Could I have a motions to continuance this applications to March the 28th?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Lee,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
All
Thanks,
righty.
Matt.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Now we're going back to the second NOI. Is Angela Hans construct and maintain a 4-foot brushed footpath, bank access stairs, pile supported dinghy docks with 3x12 ramps, 8x12 floats and kayak racks, vegetative maintenance and understory planting at 150 Bay Road, contoured as shown in Assessors Maps 007 Parcel 018. And we have received the NHSP letter this afternoon. Arlene?
It is my understanding that the commission wanted to have this site staked, and I apologize. Mr. Brayman had to go out of state to take care of some business and apparently didn't get to it before he left. So we are asking for a continuance to the 28th of March in order to get that done sufficiently ahead that Darcy and whoever else wants to can see it.
Thank you, Arlene. Could I have a motion to continue this applications to March 28th without testimony?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Sampu,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Foster,
Aye.
Abadili.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you, Arlene.
Thank you.
We are into the amended order. The first one is Stephen M. and Beth F. McFarland to amend the order of conditions to allow for removal of invasives from additional area along the bulkhead at 150 Carriage Road, Austerville, as shown on Assessors Map 071 Parcel 015-003. Chuck?
Good evening, Chuck Rowland, Sullivan Engineering Consulting. My understanding is that we have asked for a continuance, and I'm not sure what the date was that we asked for.
328, I thought.
328, and we're just waiting for the actual form to come in.
Okay, 28.
The WC form, yeah.
Okay. Could I have a motion to continue this applications to without testimony to March 28th?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Oh boy.
George?
No roll call.
No roll call?
I'm here.
Oh, here he is.
Okay. Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Lee,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Sampu.
I'm here. Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
That's good night. The second amended order is Donald J. McKinnon, trustee, to amend the order of conditions to add proposed garage/workshop structure, revised septic locations, and mitigation planting change at 910 Main Street, cost contoured as shown on the assessors maps 035 parcel 092. Dan?
Yes, good evening, Chairman Lee, members of the commission. Dan Ojala with Domkeep Engineering. Tabitha Cagle from Wilkinson Ecological is also on the line if there are any questions of her. And DJ McKinnon is also available if you have any questions of the owner. And he may have Sarah from Nutter available if there's any legal questions. But this, I think, is a pretty straightforward one. But we talked to Darcy a bit, and she, I think, felt fairly comfortable with this aspect. There's a few little changes, I think mostly beneficial. Again, it's 910 Main Street. The plan also shows 33 Oyster because they're sort of, sister properties or brother properties, as you would say. But DJ's brother is down in this one, and DJ is 910. What we're doing is DJ wanted to have a little workshop there, and actually that was kind of fortuitous because it pushed the leaching field further away from the resource areas. We just got done with the health department and were granted a variance to have the pump chamber be 76 feet from the wetland. But the good news is then we got rid of the variance that the leaching field was 76 from the wetland, which in this case is a dry state coastal bank, which I know this commission doesn't concern themselves as much with. Once it hits 18% and is seaward facing, it's a much more of a concern, and I think rightfully so. But nonetheless, the state Title V doesn't differentiate, and so they look at it hard, and we're getting rid of a variance. And so now the leaching, we're pumping it way up to the back, and it's way out of the way and so even further from the harbor, from Cotuit Bay, and further from the bank. So we dropped a variance from the Board of Health. So that's a good thing. Again, adding just a little workshop, kind of a shed type structure there. We'll have a little convenience bathroom in it, just like a little workshop / getaway. If it's too loud in the house, you can go out there and bang on some things. But the other little changes are, I think, somewhat nice. We took the AC units in the past. I believe we heard the Bunting said, well, gee, those AC units are kind of close to our lot, and they might, reflect some sound this way. So the good news is we tucked those here on the north side. Let me share the screen. Can you guys see that okay?
Dan, it would really help to put up the plan and go through where each of those are in that plan.
Yeah, sorry about that. I somehow
Thanks,
thought I was
Dan.
sharing, but I wasn't. So the good news is the Buntings are over here, and we had the AC pad on this south side, a row of conditioners. We're able to tuck them up here on the north side. Again, it's right against the house. It's a state bank, which isn't, as big a concern as the town, the seaward facing town bank over here. So here's the little workshop, and we took the leaching from in that area and went way farther away here. So that's up on the up against Main Street. So we think that's a good change. Again, that'll probably help even more with water quality. We're pumping up, getting even more of a soil column underneath the leaching. And I should stress that DJ and his brother Matthew have both invested in nitro systems, which are the latest mousetrap, but certainly seem to be the leading nitrogen reducing technology that's available. They're a little more fussy to put in because they're still under the provisional permit, but they're getting great numbers on the order of high single digits parts per million on the nitrates coming out of the system, which then when diluted by the groundwater really puts them into a low level and strips out a lot of that problem nutrient, the first salt water, which tends to be the nitrates, the nitrogen, which comes from ammonia, which comes from humans. But that's the best way we found to strip it out. And so those are under contract, both of them. And I think it's a big benefit, especially in the Katuitt Bay area where it's very sensitive. And if these new rules go through, everyone else will upgrade too, or we'll certainly talk about it. Barnstable may or may not require them immediately, but DJ and his brother are both environmentally conscious, wanted to lead the edge, and I think it is worth stressing that they put in the latest state-of-the-art nitro systems on both this property and the sister one next door that we may talk briefly about next. And then we did delete, for what it's worth, a set of the helical anchors. DJ is an avid rower with the shells, rowing shells, but we realized we had one set down there that was approved but not needed, so we took those out. The Wilkinson Environmental, again, they're here. I know it's we're going through time and so forth, but there's the planting plans and some changes that they made. There's two different plans. The whole bank is being restored, in the process of being restored with native vegetation, a lot of the invasives. There was all types of everything from ivy, English ivy, and everything else in there, and some Norway maples being removed. And Wilkinson will be happy to touch on that if you are interested or want to go through it in more detail. All that was proposed before. We simply moved some areas around a little bit as shown on the plan. So I think that's modest, but it is nonetheless important. And I think that's about it, So again, I think fundamentally by moving the leaching further from the bank and making a little bit of noise, you can see even the old ACs were left on Wilkinson. They moved over to the north side on our new plan. That is a significant benefit for the abutter and better for the environment, and just a little tweak here and there to the planting. So be glad to answer any questions, or if you'd like to hear from Wilkinson, they'll be glad to speak up. Thank you.
One thing I just want to mention to the commissioner, we should just focus on this particular one, applications to 910 Main Street. We'll come back on the 33 Oyster Place shortly after we finish with this. Any questions for Dan?
Yes.
John.
Thank you. Whoops, just Dan, if you can go back to the full screen. Stop right there, Dan.
Well, that was the old one. This is the new one, but I can flip back and forth. If you want.
Yeah, if you just stay in that one, Dan, you've got the shed in the upper left corner as I'm looking at it. What's the area in the bottom there in orange? What is that? A change, or is that the next door, the 33?
So move my mouse in the area you're talking about here. My mouse is hovering over the workshop right now in orange.
Right.
So that's the change, and it's well, yeah.
Is that the only hardscape change?
I don't think you even take jurisdiction over that because it's the closest one is a state bank, and we're way away from that. So that's kind of, I mean, but it is what we changed.
Okay.
If you wanted to take jurisdiction over a state bank, you got it.
But no, that's fine. What other hardscape changes are being requested? Hardscape changes.
Very minor.
Okay, where are those minor changes, Dan? That's my question.
So here's almost insignificant, but taking the just to flip back to see the AC pads here.
Right.
Those are now on the other side over here. But if you look at the old plan versus the new, it's an identical. Within the setback, especially within the 100 foot to the coastal bank, which is what you look at. There's no significant changes whatsoever.
Okay, and just answer my question. Those are the only hardscape changes being proposed. Is that correct?
That's accurate.
Okay. The second question is, what are the changes? I saw where the Wilkinson plan is. What changes are being requested in that from the original plan? Right. I just want to clarify what those changes are.
Yeah, those would be the bubbled areas that show on that plan. So let me see if I can pull that back up, see if I've got the right one here. And so I don't know if Wilkinson wants to speak up on it. They may be able to speak a little bit more eloquently, but The permitted area is relocated as shown, 785 square foot is bubbled right there. And how does that exactly work, Tabitha? Do you have that memorized, or feel free to speak?
Sure. Yeah, I can speak to this. Good evening, Tabitha Cagle from Wilkinson Ecological Design. I have a simplified diagram I'd be happy to share that could show, I think could show this change really easily. I could share my screen, but it's simply swapping 785 square feet of mitigation on the 910 property down to the water side of the 910 property. And in fact, we're increasing that mitigation to 820 square feet. All of the proposed plantings will go into the relocated area, which is down here, closer to Katuitt Bay resource area.
Wait, can you show us the plan?
Does this one, is this the sketch you're referring to? It's on the.
I actually have a diagram that I could.
Okay, let me stop
I did
sharing,
not-
and I think that would allow you.
I did not make her a co-host. I was not informed. I just made you
Okay.
one, Dan, because I figured it was your project, so.
Yeah, fair enough. If you
Okay.
want to email it to me, I could pop it up, but.
Or if you want to zoom out a little, Dan, I think it's pretty visible if you zoom out a little more.
Sure.
And then just make sure that the waterfront. So the areas shown here in the solid green hatch are what we are proposing to relocate. And if you can follow my mouse down through the 910 property, which kind of encircles the 33 Oyster Bluff property, and we're proposing to relocate it down in this location. Previously, there were some Carolina rose that was part of the mitigation that was proposed down here, but we're actually taking all of that mitigation and creating sort of more of a chunk of vegetated buffer closer to Katuitt Bay in this area. All of the plantings that are proposed on the original permitted plan will go in here, in addition to our native grass seed mix, and that area will be allowed to naturalize. So it's almost a like for like swap, except we're actually proposing a bit more mitigation in this area closer to Katuitt Bay.
Great, awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other question from the commissioner?
Tom, I just wanted to mention, just go on the record that I am having a conversation with Sarah and Dan about the width of the stairs. Since these are on 910, we usually have a 4-foot width. We measured the stringers; those are 4 feet, but the decking of the stairs are hang over, and it's wider than 4 feet. So that's something that should be addressed. But I just wanted to mention it because there was a section of the stairs shown on that plan, but it did not show the straight on shot, what I want to say, of the stairs. And that is usually something that we always see as 4 feet wide.
And if I could just, between the rails, it's 4 feet. So what we're basically talking about, just so everyone's clear, it's only about an inch overhang on either side. I think DJ measured it at 50 inches rather than the 48. And, you know, we definitely apologize for that. I drafted it 4 foot wide. The builder scaled it, and maybe the line width was a hair wider. And so we went an inch or so. But perhaps we could do a special exception for people that do extraordinarily good, innovative alternative septic systems to allow an inch overhang on their stairs. I mean, it might be a fair trade, you know, and entice more people to put in these good septics. But it's constructed now. It's extremely hard wood. The screws are close to the edge, and if we trim it off, it'll split. And for those reasons, would really appreciate the board's indulgence on leaving the extra inch on the sides. But we'll certainly work with you if there's a huge consensus. And again, I think the innovative alternative septic, which is completely voluntary by the McKinnons, hopefully would mitigate that small error. Thank you.
Any other comments from the commissioner?
Yeah,
I'd like to know how
I don't want
Darcy
to worry
feels.
about that inch.
You what, Peter?
I don't want to worry about an inch. The IA systems more than make up for that oversight.
George?
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. You know, it's I got bagged a couple times with that myself back when I was in construction. It's something a contractor just does and doesn't think about it. He makes his stringers 4 feet wide, gives an inch overhang on each side. I think Darcy, you got me one time on that, but and I did trim it back. But in this case, I with the IA systems and all that, I think we can let it go.
Okay, I'm fine with it. Just we probably want to just have a mention it in the motion that it can stay, so we have it on the record.
Thank you. Do I need to go to a public comment on this one amendment or no?
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Public comment on this?
Seeing none.
None? Could I have a motion to approve this amended order for 910 Main Street, including the width of the stairway, slightly more than 4 feet?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Sampo.
Aye.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Moran.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. That is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next one is Matthew McKinnon, trustee, to amend the order of conditions for landscaping changes, including revised mitigation planting plans and fill around the house at 33 Oysters Place Road, contoured as shown in Assessors Map 035, Parcel 101. I'll let Dan speak first before I jump in.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the board's, working with us and hearing us on this, and we absolutely understand if we want to continue it and negotiate a couple of changes. But just very briefly, this is a similar property. The gentleman, Matthew McKinnon, did invest also in the new nitro system, which is the best nitrogen removing technology that I've seen come down the pipeline. It's humming along nice and quietly and working already for a little while. There hasn't been a lot of use of the house, but the system is installed. We pumped it up the top of the hill to get it away as far as possible and as high above the Katuitt Bay as we could. We took a single family cottage. You guys allowed us to move that over and take that footprint and raise it up with a V zone, non-substantial addition to 33 Oyster. We are in a velocity zone here and the ground is extremely low. The neighbor, you can see over here, there was a dredge disposal area license. It was only filled up to about elevation 4 in the past. And so, it'll flood during maybe not a king tide, but the next storm above it, a 1-year event or so forth. And our yard would flood up too. As part of the work with a V-zone foundation, you're allowed by the building code to bring the slab up a little bit of fill, not structural, but just to level the slab underneath it where the open porch is with the piles. And then there's always been and was a note on the plan that says regrade that lawn area slightly to pitch gently away from the dwelling and replace the turf lawn with low maintenance eco sod or equal. See the Wilkinson ecological plans and notes. And so it was all as our intention, and we weren't hiding the fact that we were going to bring in some fill and regrade this a little bit. And again, I would stress in looking at this big picture, when the 100-year storm comes and is up at elevation 14, it's not going to really know what's going down at 3 and 4 and 5 feet above. There's going to be, on the order of 8 or so feet of water and breaking waves coming across this lot. And one of the reasons that you don't bring fill into a flood zone is you certainly don't want to divert floodwaters. Like if you created a berm, a V-shaped berm, and diverted those waves and it would go right to your neighbor and destroy their house, then that is a very bad thing. I mean, you do allow fill for coastal dunes and things like that when it's carefully managed. But the good news on this one is a town landing on the east side. It's way down at elevation. You see this basin is at 2.7 and it goes up to about 4 over here. So it's very low. And this tiny amount of fill, it will be de minimis, any shedding of water there. On the west side, it is a little bit lower. And I should explain quickly that Mr. McKinnon is a developer in Boston, and he does a lot of bigger projects. And so he treated this as a construction manager. What should we do here? I'd remind the commission that this was a licensed pier and wharf with a big Katuitt Oyster Company on it for many years back, turn of the century and older. And that's the reason for the Oyster Place Road. And whenever you put your shovel in the ground, you hit oyster shells and mixed, just slurry and junk. And so when he was working around this foundation, his guys kept going up to their ankles in this muck. So he scraped it down to a more solid surface and trucked it off the site. And then he put up, the silt fence was up for the whole winters and the time that he was working on it. And it was a nice dry site for that time. Then in the spring and so forth, he brought back in the topsoil once the work was done and stabilized it. And we did bring in perhaps a little bit more than was anticipated, but the neighbor called and note 8 and in the narrative we also put clearly that the same thing, regrade the lawn area slightly to pitch away from the house. And did bring in, about a foot of fill averaged over this whole area. Some places it's, tapers to 0, other places might be 1.8 and filled a little bit of a pocket here. So now when you come down the stairs, you can walk along the top of a slope and then it pitches all the way down to the end. And then we should add that he added a stormwater detention basin. That's a very typical thing like you would see at the hospital or any big commercial site that we do. You always create a little retention basin on the down gradient side to capture the water and infiltrate it before it goes into a resource area. That would be, in addition to the silt fence. And so that's what was done. Somebody left a casting from when we pulled the old septic tank out in there. And so it didn't look particularly neat. And Darcy questioned because it was kind of an odd looking arrangement, but it worked according to Mr. McKinnon very effectively over the winter. And it took the rains and didn't allow any water to head down towards, the pieces of salt marsh, which are, highly protected down towards the bay. So, but now we've got a situation, these 5.4, 5.5 grades are the finished grade. And so Darcy is I would characterize it as somewhat uncomfortable with the amount of fill that we brought in, because especially when you stand in this area, you can notice there's a little slope towards the neighbor. I think probably the best thing we could do here would be to pull these grades down just a little bit and create a gentle swale. So in other words, from the top of the slope, a back slope down to a low point and create a little gutter line or swale along here and pull it down. And that's what you call a grass line swale. And that could infiltrate some water so that any water that was sheeting down here off the hill. And again, this is all going to be temporary. It's just temporary seeded right now. So, if any of you out there, there's some grass. That's all just a contractor mix to stabilize, and before the eco side goes down. So we have the capability to regrade in any manner that you guys are comfortable with. But what we'd propose is a very gentle swale along this walkway here. So it'll capture any runoff that comes off and infiltrate it along here before it gets to the water and before it sheets towards the neighbor's side. And the standard of care when we're doing a site like this is you look at the the conditions prior to development and then post-development, and your hydrograph or the rate of runoff can't increase after development than it did before development. And I can say that with great comfort that if we put in that slight swale along here and we'll pick up the roof runoff, you see all the dry wells around this, and we'll make sure that we get the dry wells installed on 33 Oyster as well. Per the notes, that we do not sheet more runoff towards that neighbor. And again, there's no home over here that would be from floodwaters, damage or anything like that from the little bit of fill. And again, with the elevation 14 versus the 4 and 5, I would argue that it's a pretty de minimis amount of fill. If you look at a cross section, you could hardly tell the difference going through that area. But perhaps then if we could work with the commission and create a swale along this edge, then that would take care of it. I didn't mean to skip over anything. There was, let me see, a split rail fence. I don't know that we need permission for that, but we did, we're going to replace the fence for the town that blocks between the landing and our property there. Again, the building code calls for positive drainage away from the building, but then we can intercept it with a shallow swale that will infiltrate the water down towards the beach. the sandy subsoils are very capable of infiltrating, and we'll make sure that that works well. Again, Wilkinson Environmental also, again, we're looking, the lot line is here, but it does kind of blend a little bit with the neighbor, and we did planting on both as kind of a package that the commission was able to approve before, some modest additions and changes or a balanced change to that, plus a few square foot. So we would be, on behalf of the clients, respectfully requesting this as an amended order. I completely understand if you want to look at a detailed grading plan that details a swale that would make sure that the water does not go towards the Bunting property on the southwest and instead is infiltrated in the lawn area. But other than that, would respectfully ask to leave that, a couple 100 yards of material. If the commission is completely uncomfortable, we'll certainly listen and lower it to the extent that you need. But I wanted to let you know that DJ didn't have any ill intent here. He just wanted to clean up his site and have it be, a good working site. He put the retention basin in. They trucked back in the loam, and they did bring in a little bit more than was there before. But again, we thought that we had it covered by the notes on the plan, and we apologize for the misunderstanding. We'll certainly work with you on it, and we'd be glad to answer any questions. And again, Wilkinson is here if there are any questions of them on this amended order. Thank you.
Speaking for myself only, I have not talked to anyone on this, maybe George, and then obviously with Darcy. When a statement saying it's a slight pitch for 200 cubic yard that you're trucking in is not a slight pitch to me. I mean, I'm an engineer. I mean, slight pitch, you're talking about maybe couple cubic yard, 510, not 200. The only thing that I'm looking for is like, do you have a previous, from the design standpoint, when you have the initial survey to show what the grading is and what is the grading right now? Because right now it's very difficult to tell how much cover that you have backfilled to the site. I think that's a starting point for me. Before I go to the commission, I want to give a chance to Darcy kind of explaining that a little bit.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, I also feel the same way because I had a Zoom meeting with Seth Wilkinson when he wanted to first start swapping some of the plants and the mitigation around. And I mentioned to him, I'm like, there's a violation out there. I asked Ed to go out and look into it, and they weren't aware of this amount of fill going in. So the slight pitch statement on the plan, that it being a, the plan, this was a lot more. I have a concern about this coming in as an amended order. I understand that Ed and Dan did talk about this. I think Ed's view was it might not have a chance of getting permitted. I was copied on an email about Dan stating he thought maybe he could submit this as an amended order. I did not see that until a later date because a lot of times I get so many emails, I key in on the ones that come directly to me. I made it clear to Dan that I thought he knew the policy here was that the consultants talk to me first when amended orders come in, so I can then talk to Tom and state whether something we think is more than a substantial change and should have a new notice of intent. So my concern is this is a violation. I'm not sure why, Mr. McKinnon didn't call and ask about doing this first. So I don't think this should have come in as amended order. And then I guess I have one question about the swale. If you were even considering that, if the commission said do a new notice of intent or whatever, the pitch, I thought we had plantings along the edge there. So I guess I would ask Wilkinson to make sure about if you were going to pitch it to that direction, it wouldn't be affecting those plantings that are in. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Darcy. The other thing that we should be looking at is that proposed drainage area, the crushed stone area. That was not showing up in the previous plan or in any other plan, and then suddenly pops up. And what is that going to be? Because right now you look at that, it's almost 1 foot below the backfill right now, if you look at it. So that's something that we need to address as well. So let me go to.
Could I, through the chair, just address some of the things that were just said?
You want to go through the commissioners first?
You want to let me go through the commission first,
Sure.
and then
Thanks.
to you, Sarah, if you don't mind.
Thank you.
Louise?
Just standing there on the lawn, such as it is right now at 33 Oyster, there is a very definite difference in the levels between 33 Oyster and the neighbor. So I think that a lot of thought needs to be put into this swale that is being talked about, because that really has to get done correctly. And just that, I mean, there may be some other ways of dealing with it, but the difference in level between the neighbor and 33 Oyster is very distinct. Anybody can see it from a distance, and so we just need to be really careful about that. Thank you.
Thanks, Louise. George?
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, I agree with what Louise said and Tom said. But a couple things as far as that drainage area, which is in the 50, I think it's important that we know what's going to happen with that.
Yeah.
Also, Dan, you mentioned that some material had been removed from the site. Any idea how much material left? I know you mentioned 200 yards came back in, but do we have any idea at all what the balance is there?
So it was more than 200 yards came out because he stripped, a few inches at least of loam on the whole site, and a foot over, the whole area in the side of the work limit is roughly 200 yards. So the average thickness that came back is about a foot. So probably, I don't know if DJ could chime in too, but I would say probably, 20% more than that, or I guess, if it was if it was 6 inches that came out, it would be, under 100 yards that came out, and then, over, a few hundred came, or 200 plus that amount came back in. I don't have a precise figure on that because we can't measure it, but what I do know is the precondition to post condition net is 194 yards or something like that is what we calculated.
All right, thank you.
John?
Yeah, Dan, I have to agree with Tom. Your description is not one that I would agree with. Slight. But I'm more concerned of the procedure here and the filing of an amended order. I don't think we should be sitting here tonight and agreeing on a swale or et cetera. I think that burden has to fall on you and the applicant to come back with a new filing and with the relevant criteria that Tom would probably have some expert at looking at. So I think that this amended order, my initial leaning is should be denied as an amended order, and obviously leaving you free and Mr. McKinnon to come back in with a new filing. That's kind of where my thinking is now.
Understand that.
Thanks,
is completely unreasonable. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Larry?
I'm going to play a little game here, so to speak, that it's sort of like Beethoven wrote a symphony, the 8th symphony, and then he didn't like it, so he rewrote it the 9th without telling anybody. I'm not trying to be corny about anything, but it does seem, as John just summarized, it really is more a question of procedure but the procedure is influenced by the significance of the change. So now whether or not a new filing is necessary or whether some other procedure could be approached, I think that is up to the applicant, and then it would be up to the commission to decide how to handle it. Looking at the property, and I peeked through the fence over here to look at it, it looks very good, but that's really not the question. I think the question is, and there've been so many changes on these two properties in the last 2 or 3 years, maybe longer, that I would think that maybe we have put up with a lot, but more importantly, I think the property owners should have been much more respective of doing things, getting permission before doing, than the other way around. So I'm supportive of if it's going to be a continuance, fine. If it's, I don't think we're here denying an amended order at this point, but Dan may choose to withdraw it.
Be happy to withdraw without prejudice if you would allow that.
Dan.
No, I understand. I'm just saying, I'm just outlining some of the options. I'm just saying that that's what I'm trying to say.
I think Counselor, I think the attorney wishes to speak. Larry, maybe she can address some of those points.
Well, I think I've covered everything. If you want to, Sarah, if you want to say something, that's fine.
Well, she's trying to.
Okay. Yeah, but we try not to interrupt here.
So, Larry, are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. Sarah?
Thank you, and was trying to interrupt Dan, not you, Larry. Apologize. Sarah Toronto Flores on behalf of the applicant. I don't. When I was speaking with Darcy, it wasn't my plan, at least, and I guess I didn't communicate that well enough to Dan, that the fill be addressed through the amended order. The amended order in front of you seeks approval on 33 to relocate air conditioning units, to remove a walkway, to add a split rail fence, and to make adjustments in the mitigation areas similar to what was done at 910. And Tabitha can explain them. That's the amendment in front of you. The fill, I agree, should be addressed and have no objection to it being addressed outside the context of the amendment application, which does not address the fill at all. And I realize it's on the same property, and we do want to be wholly compliant with the original order of conditions that called for that grading of the front or the area in between the house and the water. And if that was overdone, and this commission determines that, then we will take those steps, and we can do that sort of simultaneous with proceeding with this amendment. If we want to continue the hearing, we could come back with steps, including that plan showing the difference, and putting calculations on to our best ability to do so, the amount of fill that was removed, and what was put back, its amounts, and then also profiles to show you what it looks like now. And Dan can include in that swale he was talking about to ensure, in combination with the dry wells, that any and all runoff will be wholly contained on our property and won't be shedding towards the neighbor at all. This wasn't done in the dead of night, and I want to reiterate that this wasn't done intentionally as a violation or without telling anybody. DJ did in December take photographs of the site before it was disturbed in December of 2021. And so those photographs can also help us with the comparison of before and after. I think that, and he can tell you truly that it was done not knowing that this wasn't already permitted as part of the original project. But if it is in fact more than the commission was anticipating and more than described on the site plan and more ultimately than this commission wants, we can take these measures to make sure that the project that was previously approved back in August of 2021 is compliant by the time we go seek a certificate of compliance for that project. And that can be handled. I know you like to address those things. I was speaking with Darcy outside the notice of intent context. So I don't disagree with the commissioner's concern that this be addressed through an amendment. I think we will just do that affirmatively, and we can bring that plan to the next hearing on this amendment. But I just wanted to clarify that this amendment really isn't, and it didn't even mention the fill. It seeks approval for relocating air conditioning units, which are within the buffer zone to the roof. So reducing the amount of hardscape. It's removing a walkway, an additional reduction of hardscape. It's adding a split rail fence around the property line, and it's making adjustments to the mitigation areas similar to what we did for 910, and Tabitha can summarize those for you and can probably do so tonight, and then we can continue. My suggestion is that we continue and come back with greater details on the fill, so that you're just knowing what our plans are to make sure we comport with the original order before you approve an amendment to this order. I think the timing of that makes sense for everybody, but I did want to clarify that we weren't seeking approval for the fill through this amendment process. If at the next hearing the commission feels that some formal filing is needed or more preferable, then we can make that decision at the next meeting and make that formal filing. But for now, you know, the amendment in front of you doesn't concern the fill, and I see that Dan's brought up Tabitha's plan, so maybe she can just quickly summarize what that change is in this amendment, and then we can ask the commission if they would continue the hearing, maybe for 2 weeks, to allow Dan time to get that plan into you with all of those details, and then it can be discussed further at the next meeting. Thank you.
Tom, may I address that?
Could I go?
Oh, I'm sorry, Louise.
John, do you mind? Let me make my comment first before I go.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, and Louise.
Sarah, when you trying to describe the amendment that you want to do, which is not the same, what we published in terms of the scope. That's
the
totally
33
different.
Oyster Place application, amendment application.
Well, I'll read you what we published to amend the order of conditions for landscaping changes, including revised mitigation, planting plan, and fill around the house.
And that also is on what I wanted to chime in is it's also on the abutter notification letter. It's listed as the product under the project description, fill around house.
And let me jump in too. On top of that, I was reading Dan's letter, and although he refers to the fill in one paragraph, the next paragraph says the modification proposed conditions are a split rail fence to enclose the yard, reduction in the size of the shell driveway, and then an updated mitigation plan.
Yeah,
that's what he specifically said. So it became very confusing to me. Was the fill in this or not in this? And now you're mentioning the air conditioning units, which was on the other property. So
no,
I'm kind of confused.
It is both. They do relocate the air conditioning units on both properties.
On both? Well, that wasn't in this one then, Tom. That I must have missed it.
Yeah, it was. If I could, through the chair, only by omission. I did forget to mention that, but it's a nice little bonus. See, note 1 on the original plan here was the AC pad and the generator were down here. DJ, with the V zone and everything, thought better, and it helps you guys because now they're gone. And what he did is he made a little flat section of roof and tucked them up on the very top. So I didn't mention that. He also.
Well, the problem that I have, Dan, is that from a legal point of view, I'm reading one thing, and now you're asking for something else. It wasn't in the ad. It wasn't in the notification. So it really becomes very messy. That's all. I mean, it's not a major issue, but it is missing, and that really bothers me, Counselor, from a legal point of view. What we're reading and what we're hearing are two different things. Excuse me, Tom. talking.
Yeah, no, I think we all think about the same thing.
Yeah.
The legal ad is a concern. I didn't read the agenda to note the difference.
Tom,
And then you read Dan's letter, Counselor, and it says something very different than what you just said.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, the plan, sorry.
well, I would just say, through the chair, the way that we phrased this was that under note 8, per the regrading, we brought in 200 yards of fill. So I might be having my cake and eating it too, but I was just saying that, under that, we did bring in this fill. The new grades are shown on this plan, a little bit more specificity to the other one. With the 2-foot contours, contours hardly make any difference because there's no 6 contour and the 4 just bumped down a little bit. But so I was trying to say that under note 8, we brought in the material and regraded the lawn, and then the other changes are the X, Y, and Z. Not that I felt that it was, generally somewhat permittable under, and again, there can be differences of opinion, but when you grade from a house that's up here to the ground that's down there, that's all we really did. There was no mound of fill or anything brought in. It was simply grading between the house and the lot line.
I just think, again, from a clarity point of view, and Council, I'm sure you're going to have to agree that it's really confusing.
Yeah.
What's being asked for and what's being said tonight are two very different things for me as a commissioner, at least.
And I'd like to say something. It's clear that this amended order came in because I sent Ed out there because of this violation, and Ed and Dan had a conversation, and he said, okay, I will just file the 200 yards coming in and try this as an amended order. So it's clear that this came in as an amended order for that 200 yards. I personally think it's a substantial change and should not be heard as an amended order.
So, Darcy, we had the plan though we had these the amendments, including the relocation of the air conditioning units and the mitigation plan before Ed discussed with Dan the fill, because that was your meeting with Wilkinson. So that this amendment wasn't filed because of the fill.
But he added
the fill got added into the mix.
Right.
Yeah.
But so
yeah.
You can't come in this way. I think you should withdraw the way that you have it right now and start all over again.
Well, I would agree with that.
So Sarah, this is just a suggestion. Withdraw this, and then you can file the amended order that you want to have the split rail fence to move the air conditioning and all those stuff, so that this descriptions is clear in terms of the ad. And then we'll deal with the fill as a separate NOI things.
I think particularly with the legal ad being and the agenda being what it is, that is the important thing to do is either withdraw the whole thing as you're suggesting and make the description more specific, or continue and re-advertise. I guess that's the other way to clarify it.
Well, I think it's better, maybe cleaner, just to withdraw it and then we file the amended order with your proper descriptions.
Because that would mean the agenda item would have to change too, and I've never seen that if it's a continued. So.
Right.
I would feel more comfortable if the commission stated something that they believe this is a substantial change for the fill and it come in separate, just so we have a statement on the record.
Darcy, excuse me, although I agree with you, my suggestion is it be filed separately, not part of the amended order.
Right.
But that if she withdraws it, I'm not sure how we would do that, Counselor.
Okay.
And
withdraw this.
And in fairness, before that determination is made, I'd just like Dan to have a plan that shows exactly what was there before and what is there now, so that determination can be made.
Right.
It's just premature right now, I think, to call it or to characterize it as that until we see the numbers on the plan and show the elevations.
Darcy, in my opinion, that makes sense with Councilor saying.
I think that's fine, so that we have that opportunity looking at that and then make a determination whether it will be a separate file.
Okay.
So with that,
And what, Counselor, are you withdrawing this, or Dan?
Yeah, so I think if we withdraw this and we refile the straight amendment that doesn't address the fill, and at that meeting, have additional information about the fill, and the commission can make the determination as to how they want to handle that separately, not as the amendment, but can make the determination whether it's a separate filing or we just do what is agreed to at that meeting prior to a certificate of compliance being issued.
May I make a May I make a comment?
Go ahead, Larry.
Sarah, I think for you to come in with a cleaned up amended order, but then also want to talk about the fill, puts us in an awkward position, because customarily we try to confine the subjects that we're going to talk about to all be included. So it would seem to me that if you came in and added, you could do one of two things. You could withdraw and then file a new one adding the fill, or you could just do nothing about the fill and just simply turn around and file something separately. But that's my thought about it. I think that we've spent a lot of time tonight just trying to figure out, are we in the right arena and we are playing the right game? And I think that the answer to both of them is no. So, and that in other words, we're playing football on a baseball diamond. So I think that we need to, that's what I recommend. Try to come back. The cleaner you can keep it, the easier it's going to be for you, the better it's going to be for Dan to put it together. I would suggest that the legal description be presented in form of bullets or something that's very clear, so that there's a checklist. That's what I recommend you do. And I'm picking up on what Tom said and what John has said and what Dan has said and what everybody else has said. I'm just trying to make it so when we come back, let's not have a quagmire down at the town dock anymore.
So Sarah, you want to withdraw this?
I do.
Okay. So the applicant has withdrawn this amended orders. Thank you.
Do you move to accept the withdrawal?
No, that's unilaterally on your part.
I see.
Yeah.
And just please submit an email to me that you're agreeing in writing to the withdrawal, so we have it for the record.
I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sounds good. I appreciate your careful consideration, and we'll get some clearer material back in. I apologize for the confusion, but it is, it's an active site, and again, I have to say DJ was acting in pretty good faith. Just a little bit of a difference in opinion on that, Phil. So we'll correct it and be back. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one continuance, Stephanie J. Gaskell, trustee, Bali Next Trust, construct and maintain a garage attached enclosed breezeway, removal of sections of existing paved driveway, stone retaining wall and post and rail fence, installations of gutter, downspouts and dry wells with proposed mitigation planting and associated clearing, grading, utility and landscaping at 540 Old Farmers Road, Marston's Mill, and so on. The assessors map 124 parcel 005. This is a continuance from February the 14th, and we have received the NHCSP letter today, and the applicants has request for a continuance to March 14th without testimony. Could I have a motion to continue?
Mr. Chairman, before you do that, I just want to make sure that we all know that Bill has joined us, so he can be part of this vote.
Okay. Welcome, Bill. Hello. Could I have a motion to continuance this matter to March the 14th without testimony?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Sampu.
In build.
Oh, he's not come back to him. Warren.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Byrne.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Foster.
Aye.
And Sampu.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
So just a heads up, fellow commissioners, my mom called We had some insulin problems, but she's got me on the short fuse. It's not critical. So I'm here with you, but it's possible that I'll be jumping to the phone back and forth.
Okay, we understand. Thank you, Pete. So we have one item under the taken under the advisement. Stephen and Beth McFarland construct a permanent pile supported pier for non-motorized vessels at 150 Carriage Road as shown in Census Maps 01071, parcel 015003. Once we take this case under the advisements, I have drafted up some of the finding, and thank you for Pete and John and Darcy, as well as Kate. Give us a hand in terms of reviewing the final draft of the finding. Thank you for that. So, and I have Darcy sent out the draft of finding this morning. So let me read through the finding first. The Commission find the following. One, this proposed a permanent pier, NOI SE 3-6059, is filed under the local regulation, Chapter 03, adopted by the Commission under the Town of Barnstable Ordinances, Chapter 237, with an effective date of October 26, 2004. And the latest revision of these regulations with an effective date of February 20th, 2018. The use of a proposed permanent pier will be for non-motorized vessels, such as kayaks and a small sailboat. The small sailboat was added in the supplemental information dated February the 9th, 2023. Second, the Commissioner reviewed all piers proposal on a site-specific basis, as stated in our Chapter 703 Private Dock and Piers, Section 703-5C. Third, the Commission finds that the specific requirement for the protection of shellfish as set forth in the ordinances include, but by any legal extension, by logical extensions, the protections of shellfish habitat. The shellfish habitat is specifically defined in Section 703-2. Fourth, the Conservation Commission find the proposed pier is located in the area rated 6, WB7, on the shellfish rating map dated December 20th, 2011, which is published on the Conservation Division's website. The shellfish rating is between 0 and 10, with 10 being the highest. This is the shellfish resource and habitat area mapped for the Free Bay area as determined by the Shellfish Committee and adopted by the Conservation Commissions. As a long-standing practice, the Conservation Commission has considered that a rating of 6 and higher is considered a high significant shellfish area. The current version is dated December 20th, 2011, as posted on the Conservation Division's website. Fifth, based on the evidence submitted, the commissions find that this proposed permanent pier will reduce the water access for shellfish harvesting, which is detrimental to the recreational interest as defined in the local ordinances, Chapter 237 and Chapter 703-1I and 703-40. A seasonal pier allows off-season access and shellfish harvesting along the full footprint of the seasonal piers when it is removed. The presence of a permanent pier at these locations will impede recreational and commercial fishermen's access and ability to harvest shellfish under this pier year-round. A seasonal pier allows access to these sites during roughly half the year. In Chapter 703-1I states that the dock and pier, when placed inland, in lands containing shellfish or shellfish habitat, have adverse impact on the resource area value of recreation. The placement, length, and size of the dock and appurtenances floats can interfere with the harvesting of the cohogs, soft shell clams, and scallops. Docks and piers can have an unacceptable significance of cumulative effect on habitat and recreation as defined in Section 714 of Chapter 237, Wetland Protections of the General Ordinances of the Code of Town of Barnstable. 6, the commission has relied historically and with confidence on the opinion from the town's biologists with regard to the site-specific review and recommendations. In this case, the town biologist, Elizabeth Lewis, while preferring no piers at this location, concluding that a seasonal pier is preferred over a permanent pier in order to better protect the shellfish habitat and recreational and commercial shellfishing interests of the local regulations, Chapter 703-2 and 703-5B, which are more stringent. Local interests are being adversely affected. 7, on her report dated December 27, 2022, the town's biologist state that the proposed project is located in the Massachusetts Division of Marine Fishery Designated Growing Area, DMF/SC22.0, classified as approved and open to harvesting of shellfish. The area never undergoes seasonal closure and is open to both recreational and commercial harvesting. 8, within the same report, the town biologists also state that the proposed pier design will have significant impacts on the habitat of shellfishery. Again, interests protected under the local regulation, Chapter 703-4J3 and 703-5B. A permanent pier of this length would take up a large amount of space, with just the piling alone permanently removing this area as shellfish habitat from the fishery. 9, on the same report, the town's biologists also mentioned that in the wintertime, permanent dock owner run ice eaters so that the piling are not frozen in the ice and then forced up out of positions. With such shallow depths of water, the ice eater will create scouring of the bottom, similar to that of propeller of a boat would do in the shallow water. With no ice eater, these piling from the piers have been known to drift to different parts of the bay, and several are still littering areas of the shorelines from icy winter years ago. 10, the commissioner's sample cited the concern with the spread of exotic species related to permanent pier. This may have an adverse effect on resource area and the use of these areas for recreational purposes under our regulation, Chapter 703-2. Seasonal piers will at least reduce the presence, growth, and propagations of these exotic species, as seasonal removal of the piling kills attached the fouling organisms. This is confirmed by Thomas F. Bryan case by Barnstable Superior Court Judge Robert C. Ruffles, Jr. While the bylaw does not specifically mention invasive species as a particular form of adverse effect to recreational interests such as shellfishing or fin fishing, such specialty is not required. 11, Commissioner Sample also provided reference to the invasive species Massachusetts Bay Program, US EPA, and mentioned that these intruders clinging to the hull and the border hub services, including permanent floating dock and pier, ropes, buoys, and chains, even hitchhiking on the back of the native shellfish and other organisms. Once established, they can colonize and begins to smother native flora and fauna, killing off native populations by depriving them of space and food. 12, the commission find that based on the evidence and testimony presented, including the scientific records submitted by the Commissioner Sample, a permanent dock as opposed to a seasonal dock, which would meet the need of the applicant, will cause negative impact on the value protected under the local ordinances, Chapter 237-1 and Chapter 703-2. 13, our town of Barnstable regulation, Chapter 703-5B, state in most cases, seasonal piers presents less impact to the resource because of their seasonal nature and because they can construct it entirely with environmentally benign material. Unless evidence is presented which shows a permanent pile pier would, in fact, lessen the environmental impacts of said dock regulations, makes it very clear that benefit of a seasonal dock on our coastal resources. The applicant has failed to meet this burden of proof as required by the regulations 703, chapter 703-5C. In conclusion, the Barnstable Conservation Commission find that a permanent pier for a non-motorized vessel shall result in negative effects on shellfish and shellfish habitat, accessibility for fin and shell fishery, and contributed to the potential of exotic species proliferations in our embayment. The Commission finds that the applicant did not provide significant or sufficient evidence to justify a permanent pier for non-motorized use. The Commissions must deny the applicant's request for a permanent pier under the local ordinances and regulations, Chapter 703, but approve it under the State Wetland Protection Act, which contains only the minimum statewide standard and is less restrictive under the local ordinances and regulations. That's the draft finding that we have prepared. Does anyone want to make any comment on this? Larry.
First, some of the things that are in here, I'm going to ask George some questions because of his experience with docks and piers before, and I want to get his take on it so we have it clear. The first question, George, is tell me about the phrase environmentally benign materials. Is there a difference between them on seasonal versus permanent piers, and is there any of the permanent piers that you're familiar with where the materials used qualify as being environmentally benign?
Okay, the materials that we were allowed or are allowed to use in a permanent pier, pilings can be CCA treated, or they can be the rainforest hardwoods. Materials 3-inch or greater dimensional lumber can also be CCA treated. In a seasonal dock, the 4x4 posts today are all also CCA treated, and then the superstructure generally is CCA treated also. So they all conform to our regulations as I see it.
Okay, the next question deals with access to shellfish habitat. And that's certainly one of the threshold interests that were expressed. So can you explain to the rest of the commission and myself about the access to shellfish habitat associated with a permanent pier means that there are pilings that remain as opposed to a seasonal pier where theoretically everything's removed. And the second part is, do the piles themselves that would remain with a permanent pier interfere with recreational and or commercial shell fishing during the winter season?
We have a great number of piers, obviously, in our 3-bay area. This has always been a discussion. Whenever a permanent dock has gone in play, first of all, when you shellfish in shallow water, you don't use a bull rake. You scratch for cohog, so your rake is a short rake. You're in shallower water. I have seen through the years many times, and obviously I believe the shell fishermen would prefer not to have any piers, and I get that, I understand that. But I've also seen many commercial guys, particularly, shell fishing right underneath the piers. So is it more difficult? Yes. Is it impossible? No.
Are you set, Larry?
You're muted, Larry.
I don't have any more questions, George. Thank you. Because of the fact that these findings were dated February 20, that was a week ago. We just got them today. So, but I haven't had a chance to go through them fairly thoroughly. But I am going to prepare my own comments in response to this, and I'll have them sent to Darcy by tomorrow afternoon. And then I'll ask Darcy to clear circulating them to all the commission members so they can see what comments I have made. And then we'll go from there. If we vote, even assuming we vote tonight, that's fine. I'm still reserving the right to submit the comments that I think are essential to be submitted in view of the timing of this. Thank you very much.
Even though this draft finding I dated February the 20th, because that's the date I started doing the drafting. And we make several changes up until Sunday that we sent out on Monday. I did not change the date. So it is the latest. I would not concerning myself to February the 20th date. You can send your comments to Darcy. Could I have a motion to approve the draft finding?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Moran.
No.
Gilmore, no. Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
The motion carries, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to approve this project under the State Wetland Protection Act, but denied under the local ordinances, Chapter 237 and the regulations, Chapter 703?
Mr. Abadili, should we do this in
two motions?
I think, Tom, I think it'd be a little bit safer to do it as two separate motions. If I could, I think Peter raises a.
Okay.
What do you think, Tom or Darcy? I don't know.
No, I can do two. No problem. Could I have a motion to approve this project under the State Wetland Protection Act?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Moran.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
That motion is unanimous.
Could I have a motions to deny this project under the local ordinances, Chapter 237 and the regulations, Chapter 703?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gilmore, no. Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Moran.
No.
Sampu.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Thank you. We have 3 certificate of compliance. One is Timothy J. and Myla J. Calcas, SE3-5802. 2, Daniel and Catherine Cotto, SE3-5845. 3rd, Olivia M. Bartlett and Lisa B. Randolph, SE3-5580. Could I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Sampu.
Aye.
Moran. I'll come back to you, Larry. Lee.
Aye. I got an aye in there.
Thank you. Lee.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Foster.
Aye.
Abadili.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Our next hearing is at 3 o'clock on March the 7th. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Moran.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 9:08.